I had never seen a woman this strange. Every day, she marked the toilet paper with a pen. She even crouched by the bathroom door to listen in. And the only reason she did all this was to make sure her black maid never dared to use the toilet meant for whites.
Winnie, are you in there?
Yes, ma'am.
And just what are you doing?
The moment she heard that, the maid flushed the toilet. That single sound drove the lady of the house into a rage.
Get off my toilet!
Minnie was thrown out on the spot, losing her job, but she wasn't about to bow her head. She was ready to fight back in her own way. The very next morning, she showed up at Hilly's house with a special chocolate pie. She pretended to apologize for what she had done. Hilly, unaware, sat there eating the pie while tossing insult after insult. Minnie had held back long enough.
Eat my shit. What'd you say? I said eat my shit.
Hilly froze, unable to believe what she just heard. But by then, half the special pie was already gone. Sick to her stomach, she ran straight to the bathroom, and for the first time, Minnie felt a rush of pure satisfaction. What she didn't know was that Hilly wasn't done. To strike back, Hilly spread rumors through the town. She told people Minnie had a terrible disease, and accused her of being a thief. Overnight, no one in town would hire her, but Minnie wasn't one to stay down for long. Soon she knocked on the door of Hilly's sworn rival, Celia. Celia had always loved defying Hilly, and when she heard Minnie's story, she hired her right away. The estate was huge, which meant the work would be heavy. But when they sat down to discuss the job, Minnie couldn't believe her ears. Double the pay, at least 3 days off every week, and never more than 5 hours a day. The deal sounded too good to be true. Celia finally explained why. She had to hide the maid from her husband. If he ever found out, the consequences would be unthinkable. Minnie didn't have much choice. She needed the work. But what she found in Celia's house was something new: respect. Minnie patiently taught Celia how to cook, walking her through every detail. And when it came time to eat, Celia insisted they sit at the same table. No matter how many times Minnie reminded her that maids never sat with their employers, Celia refused to change. The contrast couldn't have been sharper. Hilly, after her slice of chocolate pie, was as cruel as ever. She suggested every white family build separate toilets outside for their black maids. She claimed the maids were unclean and shouldn't share facilities with whites. The other women all nodded in agreement. Soon, outdoor toilets for maids started appearing across the town. Meanwhile, Hilly found a new maid, Yule May. Yule May was desperate for money to send her children to college. She begged Hilly for an advance on her pay, but Hilly refused, mocking her and sending her away humiliated. One day while cleaning, Yule May found a ring hidden behind the sofa. It was enough to solve her problems. After a long struggle with herself, she slipped it into her pocket. The next morning, she was arrested as soon as she stepped off the bus, and Hilly stood by, watching with satisfaction. News of Yule May's arrest spread quickly. Fear gripped the town. Minnie wanted to talk it over with her best friend Aibileen, but when she opened the door, she saw a white girl sitting inside. Minnie couldn't believe her eyes. In a world built on prejudice, no white person ever came to their homes. The girl introduced herself as Skeeter, a journalist. She wanted to write down the maids' stories, to show the world their lives and their struggles. Her arrival brought hope to the women. Every night they gathered, sharing their pain and memories. Skeeter wrote down every word. Their stories weren't just confessions, they were weapons against injustice. But while the maids spoke in secret, Hilly and her friends were planning a charity auction. They claimed it was to help starving children in Africa. They asked Skeeter to put the notice in the paper. She agreed, but inside she felt sick. At the auction meetings, Skeeter witnessed open acts of racism, and she knew she had found her story. That night, as she edited the notice, she made a small change. Instead of asking for coats, she wrote down toilets. The next morning, Hilly's lawn was piled high with old toilets. Neighbors stopped to laugh and point. Her pride was shattered. When Skeeter turned in her draft, her editor was shaken, but she wanted more. Two maids' voices weren't enough. They needed many. So Minnie and Aibileen reached out. One by one, more maids came forward. They poured out their pain, their fear, their stories. Skeeter listened carefully, capturing every detail. Late one night, Aibileen shared her deepest wound. Her son had been struck and killed by a white driver. Even so, she never let bitterness touch the children she cared for. In her lifetime, she had raised 17 white children as her own. Her current employer, Elizabeth, could barely stand her own daughter. She refused even the smallest act of affection. So Aibileen gave the little girl all the love her mother withheld. But no matter how much she gave, she was treated with contempt. After the maids' stories were gathered, Skeeter decided to include her own. The story of Constantine, the maid who had raised her. Constantine wasn't just a caretaker. She was Skeeter's foundation. When Skeeter was mocked for her looks or shut out by her peers, Constantine was always there, telling her to be strong and to believe in herself. But when Skeeter returned home from college, Constantine was gone. Her mother finally told her the truth. At a dinner party filled with white guests, Constantine's daughter showed up uninvited. To Skeeter's mother, it was unforgivable. That night, after 29 years of loyal service, Constantine was fired. By the time Skeeter tried to make things right, Constantine had already passed away.
You broke her heart. I'm sorry.
I'm so sorry.
In time, a book filled with their voices was published. Its title was The Help. The town was thrown into chaos. Everyone whispered about who the stories were really about, especially the chapter about the chocolate pie, though all names were changed. People guessed anyway. Hilly insisted it was all lies, but the very next day, she stormed off to confront Skeeter. She threatened to sue, but Skeeter stood her ground. If Hilly went to court, everyone would know the truth about the pie. Hilly fell silent. In her fury, she turned on Aibileen, accusing her of theft. Elizabeth knew Aibileen was innocent, but under Hilly's pressure, she fired her anyway. Before leaving, Aibileen held the child she had raised one last time, though the girl wasn't hers. Aibileen had loved her as if she were. Even in the face of cruelty, Aibileen gave nothing but love. No degree, no status, only patience, kindness, and strength. As for Minnie, she continued working for Celia. One day, she sensed someone following her. A car door opened. Terrified, she ran, but it was only Celia's husband. He told her he knew everything. He knew Celia could never have become so skilled in the kitchen without help, and he had seen how much better Celia was doing since Minnie arrived. Celia had miscarried 4 times. She was broken inside, but Minnie's care gave her strength. Day by day, she came back to life. To thank her, Celia spent an entire day preparing a grand dinner. Her eyes shone with gratitude as she said,
I ain't losing my job.
You got a job here for the rest of your life. If you want it.
Minnie chose to stay. Skeeter, on the other hand, had to leave town. Her book had made her a target, but it also opened the door to a career in the big city. And Aibileen, no longer a maid, began her own journey as a writer. This film, based on Catherine Stockett's novel The Help, doesn't shout for equality with slogans. Instead, it shows us Aibileen's quiet strength, Minnie's defiance, and Skeeter's compassion. It reminds us that change doesn't always come from heroes. It comes from ordinary people, brave enough to speak one fair word, or extend one helping hand. If you enjoyed this story, follow me. I'll be bringing you more very soon.